Recently, you posted a video with, the iMac Pro, the 18-core, 128 gigabytes of memory, which is insane, and it has a 4 terabyte SSD in it. And in that video, you mentioned that you shoot on your Red 8K RAW. Holy crap! And then you converted ProRes, edit in Final Cut. But tell me what that process is like. How long? Of course, computers are stepping up, so you're able to really do things at a faster rate. But when did you switch to 8K RAW, and how has that process been? Is it every video? Is it special videos?
If we want to get like technically nerdy for a second,
yes, please.
The 8K really didn't happen until the iMac Pros came out. With the newer Red cameras, across all of them, even the Scarlett W, which is amazing, they'll shoot ProRes internally. So that's probably like the coolest thing about those. You lose the RAW flexibility, but they're amazing looking cameras, and ProRes is just so much easier to edit. So really up until iMac Pros came out, we would rarely shoot like 8K RAW, just because the workflow was a nightmare.
For a while was 4K. Is that like,
Yeah.
When did you switch to 4K?
You were first, I think, weren't
Were you?
That was when the C100 was popular,
Okay.
and then the GH4 came out.
Yeah.
And I regretted it because the C100 looked so good, and then
Those skin tones. Those
Yeah.
Canon skin tones.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things. And again, too, I think I'm gonna like pivot a little bit right now and just go on the record and say, like, I understand that all of this is completely unnecessary for what we do. And someone like yourself, and I know you hang out with like Peter McKinnon and stuff, like they do incredible stuff with 1080p and Canon cameras. And I think the thing that some people overlook, like seeing Red cameras, and for Linus, that was a huge reason. It wasn't that they needed it, but like Brandon, it was a way to keep him happy. And for a lot of us, like we get excited over gear. So it's less about like, it's not like we need to shoot a Hollywood movie, but for most of us, this is our life and our hobby. And like, we don't have necessarily like money that we go throw at, like myself, I don't drink, party, and like, I'm not really hugely into cars.
Yeah.
But Red cameras?
Heck yeah. Well, it keeps it fun. It keeps it interesting. Because I remember I was using the first camera, the first DSLR I ever used was my dad's Canon T3i. And I remember the day I got enough money to upgrade to my own Canon 7DD. It was when that first just came out. And I got my first lens. It was like the pancake lens, the 40 millimeter, I think. That was so exciting to me.
Yeah.
And it just kind of started. I mean, I've always been into gear because I've played electric guitar for over 10 years. So before cameras, it was what pedals, what amps am I playing through, guitars. And now every time I get to switch to a camera, it's so fun. And of course it is keeping things crispy for the audience, but it also is just, it's fun.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I noticed your secret talent of being a musician.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same idea, right? Like
It's almost like two people at this desk share that
Do
same
you play
secret
guitar?
talent.
Maybe.
Oh my gosh, next time, jam session with Jonathan.
But it's like the idea of like, you don't need like, a fancy guitar or amp, but there's something like creatively fulfilling about plugging in and then it sounds good. Obviously you need to work hard and get good, but just the same idea puts you like in a creative mindset. I think that's...
And it's not totally unreasonable to have these higher end cameras. I mean, think about the Samsung stuff, or you've done a lot of like high end stuff that didn't even land on the channel that you actually did specifically for brands. A lot of times they'll say, hey, we want a Red camera, we want something expensive. And it's like, okay, cool, I already have one. It's not like I've got to go and spend 20 grand to go rent this thing for a month to produce the video.
I think that was cool. Like we got to get a chance to do something pretty big with Philips, where it was a lot of like commercials that lived on their site and their channels. And a lot of the times too, like it adds a layer of legitimacy when you show up and, a client sees...
You're not just that YouTuber with a, yeah.
And again, it's not that you can't do amazing things with the DSLR, but when you get to that kind of like commercial world, if you show up with a little 5D package,
You're not getting in.
Yeah.
You won't get the job in the first place.